y'all. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we're bringing you another episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? So in a previous video, we discussed something called a survey. So if you have not had the opportunity to watch that video, it would be very helpful in understanding today's topic, which is what is an encroachment? So an encroachment is something that's not supposed to be there. The word kind of sounds a little bit like the definition. So if something is encroaching, it's getting onto or creeping towards a place that it is not supposed to be. So think of a really simple example. Let's say that your neighbor goes and installs a new fence, but accidentally places the fence 5 feet too far to the right. Now that fence is on your property. So what do you do? So today we're going to kind of walk through how to handle that situation, especially if you're the buyer, you're under contract, and you're getting ready to close. All of a sudden that survey comes back at the 11th hour, you're reading it and you realize that something from either the neighbor's property is on your property or vice versa. Essentially, somebody's got some land that they're not supposed to. So first of all, you can remove the encroachment, meaning whatever the object is that's on the wrong property line can simply be either destroyed and removed or picked up and shifted. It's a lot easier to do that with something like, let's say, a fence, where you simply take down the piece of the fence and then you could potentially place it on the proper property line. But let's say it's something like a pool. Can't really just pick that up and shift it. So sometimes if you can cure the problem prior to closing, typically done by the seller or whoever the encroaching party is, always do that, because once you close, once you pay for the home, the problem is now your problem. So look at the structure, look at the placement, decide whose onus this is, and see if you can come up with a game plan to get it done by closing. So a second option is to develop an encroachment agreement. So this is a document that basically outlines whose problem is on whose property, and then is this a mutual agreed upon, okay, this is always going to be here and stay, which means now the encroachment kind of runs with the land. One of the things that I would like to kind of throw at you, right, is adverse possession, which basically means if somebody has taken over a part of a property that's not technically theirs and they have it for upwards of 20 years, you're now actually giving them permission, because they've now had continual use, to kind of become the owner. So you're giving up a part of your property. It may not be on purpose. Sometimes these encroachments can exist on a portion of your land and you didn't even see it. Like let's say it's a trail or a shed in the far off corner, and through the woods, you don't even notice it until it's a little too late. So always be aware of what's going on your property, for one. The other thing to kind of think about is if, let's say, it's a fence that's too far over, you're now allowing a trespassing opportunity because the fence is kind of blocking off that portion of your property into the neighbor's yard. You're now, every time they walk on your land, it's trespassing, but it seems normal because that part of the property is on their property. Then you also get into the legal issues. What if something happens on that portion of the property? If it's technically your property line, even though it's encompassed by a fence, who becomes legally responsible for the accident or the issue? So if you develop an encroachment agreement, obviously this needs to be done through a licensed attorney here in North Carolina to walk you through that part of the process. Another option, which is an unfortunate one that we have seen happen, is you simply walk away from the property. If you can't come to mutual terms and agreement, it's always an option for you to completely walk away. In North Carolina, you do lose things like your due diligence or your earnest deposit, any inspection costs, or any other costs associated with the purchase of the home, but you can walk away from the contract itself free and clear. The fourth option is you just accept it. You don't do anything. You don't devise some kind of agreement. You don't have a cure that's proposed. There's no type of monetary value that does shift. You just kind of say, well, I'm not worried about it. I'll deal with it at a later date. The one thing about this is you do have to disclose that the encroachment exists, because you now have a material fact. So if you ever go to sell the property, you and the neighbor, who now is part of the encroachment problem, both of you will have to disclose to future buyers that the encroachment exists. So as always, anytime you get into an issue where there is a problem with the property, talk to your agent, talk to your attorney, devise the best option for you, and just make sure this is still the property for you. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we'll see you on our next episode.